Alrighty, you all. We are red tea to get this going. I hope y'all are red tea because I am definitely red tea. So coming up next, Sonic 3D Blast. Best ending race between AmberCyprian and CoEmpathy in alphabetical order. And on commentary, we have who we got on commentary. On commentary, we have the you'll see it is the Mike 89, and we have TGH. Alrighty, so let's get it started. And I'll count them down to go live, and hopefully y'all will enjoy the start of day 2 of Nothing But Sonic and Mario. You know how it works. Gentle fade of the music. Let's go.
Alright, welcome everyone. This is going to be Sonic 3D Blast Best Ending, race between AmberCyprian and CoEmpathy. I am Mike 89 or Sega Junkie, or you can call me Michael these days, I don't really care. I'm joined by the great Hooky Dog, you can call him TGH. How you doing tonight, buddy?
What's up, guys?
And hi, my name is AmberCyprian, for those of you who don't know me. I run this category pretty exclusively.
Alright, and that's who you're going to be hearing from.
Yeah, we do have,
race.
we have
you guys just got flipped, okay. Alright, that's cool. I can work with that.
We have CoEmpathy, who is on muted mic, so I will say hi on her behalf. Hi!
Alright, so if we're just about ready to go...
You want to have one of us count down for the start? Or?
Yeah, okay, so starting in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, let's go.
Alright.
Alright, so starting with Green Grove 1, and I'm going to have to explain 2 different things right away here. So generally speaking, what we're trying to do in this game is collect 5 flickies in each area and carry them on to the giant ring, and that opens up the next area for you. The secondary objective, which is exclusive to Best Ending, is to get 7 Chaos Emeralds. And in order to get the Chaos Emeralds, we're going to collect 50 rings and then take those to either Tails or Knuckles, who appear in each of the first 10 non-boss stages. So Amber takes a route that doesn't collect one in this first zone, and CoEmpathy is going straight for this first emerald here.
Yep, and you can see CoEmpathy actually collected 50 rings, like pretty much right off the bat. You need 50 rings to enter each special stage. So throughout the stages, you'll see Tails and you'll see Knuckles just hanging around. If you deposit 50 rings to them, you'll enter these special stages, and so in these special stages, you need to collect 50, 100, and then 150 rings respectively in each section, or total, like throughout the entire stage, and that will grant you the Chaos Emerald at the end of the stage, and you need 7 of those. So
you see now, CoEmpathy's not actually picking up any more rings. There's no need to pick up any more at this point, and if you collect too many, it actually makes the countdown screen go for longer and starts wasting time. So looks like Amber's going to try and get her first emerald here. Hopefully she doesn't take a hit. As you can imagine, you lose all your rings on taking a hit, so that becomes a massive problem if that happens. And then the runners actually have to start making very quick decisions as to, okay, can I actually save this? Do I have enough time, or do I just bail out and take a backup emerald? So the fact that there are 20 potential locations means that there's a fair few backups, but a lot of them are very slow and not particularly viable. There's about 11 that are considered viable options. is that they have preferred routes which are slightly different from each other's, so there's going to be a little bit of guesswork as to who's ahead at any given time. But it's nice that you have these backup options available to you, because it means that if one stage falls apart, the run isn't necessarily over. You have opportunities to make it up.
So I believe the preferred method for killing enemies to get flickies is by rolling into them for the most part. And once you do that, the flicky just kind of pops out, and you grab 5 of those, head to the end of the sector. Of course, obvious exceptions being like if you have invisibility, you can just run through them and everything. It makes it really nice. So you'll see the players getting things like shields as well throughout, especially the gold shield, which is particularly useful for killing enemies because you can home in on them as sort of the forerunner to the Sonic Adventure style like homing attacks. You'll see them getting gold shields, and you can actually press jump after you jump, and you'll home in on enemies while you're in the air, and that makes it super easy to kill.
Yeah, so CoEmpathy is in the second bonus stage right now, and what you're trying to do in these special stages is obviously not get hit, but there are also these ledges that will stop you if you don't jump in time. There's actually a couple in this stage in particular, if you have Knuckles as your second emerald, that you can't actually clear. The ledges are slightly too high, so you have to get stopped by that. So that is actually slightly slower than its Tails counterpart. Each of the stages actually have different Tails and Knuckles layouts, and generally speaking, they're about as fast as each other, but number 2 in particular is a fair bit slower with Knuckles. I've just seen Amber do the first boss of the run. We haven't even talked about the different flicky types yet. There's 4 different types of flickies, and they each actually have different properties. The blue ones are very kind, and they'll actually run towards Sonic if they're not attached to him yet. The purple ones are slightly less kind, but still generally stay in Sonic's vicinity. The red one jumps around, but roughly around the place where it was freed. And then the green one, which is introduced in Rusty Ruin 1, which is where Amber is right now. The green ones are terrible because they can just roam around wherever they like.
Yeah, Amber just actually cleared a section pretty well. So there's a section where these like little spinning things, you step on them and they put you into this like spinning state where you can destroy pillars. And there's one section where you have to stay in the spinning state for a really long time. And so this game like already has some pretty ice physicsy stuff going on with the ground. Just imagine ice physics on top of ice physics. That's what the spinning state is. And when you jump, you actually come out of that state. So that particular section is actually really unkind for movement. But clearing it pretty well was Amber, and see how CoEmpathy fares going into the first section right here. This one's not that bad, but then the next one can be a little bit treacherous.
All right, so Amber's into Rusty Ruin 2, and we actually get to see a technique called Freed Flicky Flagging, which is so named because somebody in this race knew that I would trip over my words when trying to say it. So essentially, you can see Amber's killed all the enemies, but she only has 1 flicky behind her. Flickies have 3 potential states in this game. They can be either trapped, which is when the enemy that's holding them is still alive. They can be freed, which is when you kill that enemy. And then they can be following you, which is when either Sonic or the flicky chain actually touches that flicky and it gets added to the end of the chain. What happens with freed flicky flagging is that if you enter a special stage, the game doesn't have a condition for having freed flickies just roaming around. So it just sets them all to following you. So you'll see that when Amber comes back from the special stage, she'll actually have all 5 of the flickies following her. And that saves a fair bit of time that you'd otherwise spend turning around and trying to collect them again.
Yep, there we go.
So you're a bit ahead of me then. Yeah, so you can see them all in a chain behind her at the moment. Also, when you come out of that area, that section has a set state for there are 2 of the pillars that are broken. I think Amber broke all 4 of them on the way in. So they're actually lined up at the moment because they each have 2 emeralds right now. So this is a genuine lead for CoEmpathy at the moment, a fairly small one as it stands.
Did we mention what happens when you get hit, by the way? You basically lose all your flickies. I'm not sure if this was mentioned or not. I might have been focusing on something else, but
I talked about how you lose your rings, which is bad if you're collecting them for a special stage. But losing the flickies is
you also and that can be even worse sometimes.
Yeah, particularly if you got a whole bunch of green ones. We can talk about that in Gene Gadget because there are some particular sectors where it can be quite bad.
Yeah, another odd section there that CoEmpathy just cleared and we're currently clearing, where you need to be really careful. Here we have the RR3 quick kill, very nicely done. So that involves a damage boost. So you grab the rings pretty much immediately. You run into the boss and you face immediately right. And what that does is it boosts you. It puts you up on the paw of Robotnik and allows you to pretty much immediately kill him without him getting any attacks off, which is nice.
Yeah, I thought that was a bit sketchy for Amber because she couldn't hold right the whole way. She didn't have enough momentum, but
it's not the easiest thing to do consistently, but
14 is definitely still very good.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, Spring Stadium introduces a couple of interesting new mechanics. So firstly, the spike platforms on the ground, where the spikes actually pop out. If you stand on them for too long, they'll damage you. But you can, if you just keep jumping in place, then you're okay. The other one is the springs themselves. And typically you'll see them in blocks of 4, like the one Lexi just went through there. And typically only one of them is actually a spring. You just have to know which one it is.
Also, bumpers are bad.
Yeah, bumpers are really bad. They're everywhere in both acts, and they just... Technically, you can go faster off them. You just tend to get knocked faster in the wrong direction.
Yeah, as somebody who's learning this game currently, I have definitely become well acquainted with most, if not all, of the bumpers in Spring Stadiums 1 and 2, both of them. So, yeah, it definitely takes really, really clean movement to be able to avoid them.
Oh, yeah, and you just saw what happened on the left screen. If you take a hit in these, you get knocked back a little way and you lose 10 rings. So there is a little bit of a risk with only carrying 150 through to the end here if you take a hit really late and you can't make it up. But that doesn't tend to happen to these runners. They know the stages pretty well. Interesting little tidbit of trivia about Spring Stadium, actually. It's the only stage in the game where not just one, but every single sector has one of each type of flicky in it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I don't know why that is. It just is. So 2 sectors in Act 1, and CoEmpathy's just finished those. And Spring Stadium 2 has 3 sectors, and yeah, all of those have one of each as well. fairly small lead at the moment. Again, there's going to actually be a slight route deviation here, unless I'm very much mistaken. CoEmpathy prefers to take an emerald here, and Amber will be getting that emerald in Volcano Valley 1 instead, in the ideal case.
Mm-hmm.
But again, if CoEmpathy were to take a hit at any point here, she would probably have to bail out and go for the upcoming... or she'd have to take one of the Volcano Valley emeralds. There you go, there's 50. The only stage we actually have a choice of which emerald you get.
Yeah, the first sector of Spring Stadium 2 is especially volatile, by the way. So it was a pretty nice maneuvering from both runners to get past it without taking much damage or just generally making many movement mistakes at all.
Something that happened to Amber as well that I didn't point out earlier when we were talking about damage. The flickies themselves can actually take damage and be knocked off the back of the chain without Sonic taking damage at all. And that is, it's particularly annoying because you don't really get a good look at it. But it does come with a sound when it happens, which is why we were both shocked when we found out that CoEmpathy normally plays without audio, because you wouldn't know that happened. This last sector of Spring Stadium 2 is nice because it's fairly straightforward, and you get to realize that, hey, this is going to be over soon. The worst part is this last flicky here, that crab, set in amongst all of those spears. The spears are even worse than the spike platforms, but act in a kind of similar way. As soon as you get anywhere near it, one of them just pops up. And now for everyone's favorite boss.
Yeah.
So Amber's going to set up with a visual cue to get these first 2 hits, and then she'll probably go over to the top platforms and try and get these hits nice and quickly that way. So that went pretty well, actually.
Yeah,
that'll be about 20. That'll be about 25 or something. CoEmpathy on the left is going to go for something quite ridiculous. It's actually possible because of the way the boss moves. It's actually possible to get all 8 hits from the ground. Yeah, it's not going to happen now, unfortunately.
Still not a bad fight.
Yeah.
I'm sorry if I'm ahead, by the way, if I'm giving spoilers.
No, it's cool. I'll
But yeah, both getting sub 30 IGTs for that boss fight is very solid. That is not an easy boss fight.
Yeah. So actually, that sector that Amber just cleared is another area where it's very easy to lose the flickies off the back just from the ice shooter thing hitting you.
Yep, you can see Amber going to exercise freed flicky flagging once more and just going straight to tails.
That jump is surprisingly terrifying with the spikes over the pit.
Yeah,
because she was doing it off a hill, and it's actually possible that if you mistime the jump, you'll do the jump in midair, and it won't actually count. Unless, of course, you hold the jump button all the way down to the ground, because this game has an interesting mechanic called jump storage, which, again, somebody in this race likes to remind me of a lot. This is because I verified a run of this back in the day, like 5 or 6 years ago now. And it was clearly mentioned in the notes that the game had jump storage, and I completely failed to notice that it was a thing in playing the game myself. So I just felt really silly.
Yeah. So what jump storage basically is, and you'll see Amber sort of trudge up this snow river, which I like to call the jump storage snow river because you basically jump storage your way all the way up it. You can hold A while you're in the air after a jump in order to jump on the first frame possible when you land.
Yeah, and that does save time, in particular on that slope, because it's pushing you back so quickly every frame you're on the ground. This stage also, I didn't even mention it because they both handled the first one really well, but it has the worst enemy type in the game, which is these snowmen that hold the blue flickies. Essentially, they can instant kill you if you mess up attacking them. There's a thing they do which is kind of similar to the spike glitch in Sonic 1, if you're familiar with that. If you go to hit it and it's shooting one of its projectiles at the same time, then it hits you and then the enemy hits you as well at the same time, and you don't have iframes for some reason. And you just die. So, yeah, that's cool. This stage is a really interesting one as far as the route goes, because it has a route that can only be followed in the Genesis version. We mentioned that Knuckles and Tails appear in every stage. Most stages this doesn't work out, but if you have enough rings close enough together and Tails and Knuckles are spaced out just well enough, it turns out that you can actually get 2 emeralds in the same stage. In the other versions of the game, it doesn't let you do it, because what will happen is it'll just do the same special stage again, but in the Genesis version, it'll just progress to the next stage, and you can do them both in one stage. So I'm not entirely sure which special stages these are. I've got a feeling that CoEmpathy is on 6 and Amber's on 5. That's their intended routes. I don't think either of them have deviated from their intended routes, which is good news for their times.
Yeah, both players doing a very solid job with their emerald routes for sure.
If you were paying close attention, you'll notice that that Amber and Lexi actually got there's a chain of rings there that's kind of hidden by the wall, and both of them collected those rings on the way to the emerald. They actually respawn when you come back out, which also helps immensely with getting to 50 rings a second time for Knuckles later on in the stage. I was going to say, I think Lexi needs a few more rings than that. Yeah, so there's Amber handing 51 to Knuckles. I think that CoEmpathy's going to have to, 43, so she's going to have to get 7 in front of here before going to Knuckles. That's okay. So not too far to go with these. You should see on CoEmpathy's screen on the left that she has all the Chaos Emeralds after this one's complete. And yeah, Amber definitely has 6. So she's going to take her last one in Volcano Valley 1. Yep, and CoEmpathy has all 7. So again, Amber appears slightly ahead, but their routes will converge once Amber gets her 7th and final emerald. Alright, so that's Diamond Dust 2 complete. We go to Diamond Dust 3. This is a pretty straightforward boss the way they're going to do it. But if you ever see a tool-assisted run of this, it's going to look very, very different. So after every phase, Robotnik drops a snowman, and you can actually get a bounce off its head and hit Robotnik higher in his descent. It only saves like 1 or 2 seconds. It's ridiculous, and you won't see people going for it in RTAs anytime soon. Although I'd love to see someone try it once in a setting like this, just for kicks. No pressure or anything. Also, yeah, Robotnik's AI is really good.
Super good. Yeah, sometimes Robotnik will just like wander out into the middle of the arena too at the very end for literally zero reason. Just off in the no man's land, but behaving so far for both runners. And there we go.
Okay, so the ring route is fairly tight here that Amber's going to take in Volcano Valley 1. You can see she's abandoning the Flicky because she doesn't need it. But, yeah, she only has 2, I think, rings of leeway on the route she's going to try and take. Yep, so there's 50. And here comes Emerald 7. Interesting thing you'll notice on Lexi's screen is that there's actually 2 different types of red flickies in this stage. One of them is just a recolored purple. That's just for this stage because they ran out of room in their palette. That also makes them really hard to catch in the event that you take a hit, particularly over lava. Actually seeing them is difficult in the lava. And there is a fire shield you can grab that makes it a lot easier because then the damage you take, or you won't take fire damage, so it makes the rest of the stage a lot easier. But it's kind of out of the way, so neither of them choose to take it because it's slow to get it. Also, both of them have the emeralds, so this is now a this is an actual confirmed lead for CoEmpathy. Volcano Valley 2 is a nice and short stage. It has a backup emerald you can take if you absolutely have to, but both runners try not to get to this point in a marathon run without having all the emeralds, because this is the last stage you can get any of them in. If you get out of this stage without having collected the last emerald, you cannot get the best ending because there are no more opportunities left. The other thing about it is it makes the stage itself scary, because when you come back from a special stage, you come back with not only no rings, but no shields either if you had them. So because the fire shield's really early in this stage and there's no real backup for it, you then would have to play the entire second sector without the fire shield. You just saw CoEmpathy run through the lava there. Wouldn't be able to do that if you'd collected the emerald here. Also, the fire kind of snake things that shoot out of the lava there don't actually count as fire damage. So you should be protected from them because you have a fire shield, but you're actually not.
And apparently nobody has any idea why.
Yeah, similar thing happens in Sonic 3 and Knuckles with some of the lightning hazards. You're not protected with the lightning shield, but yeah, it's silly. So Lexi's now moving on to Gene Gadget, which is the This sector in particular is probably the scariest in the entire game. So it introduces. Oh, yeah, just lost one off the back. Introduces these turrets. The turrets shoot quite rapidly, but they're fairly predictable. They rotate counterclockwise at a set speed, and they will only start shooting once you get close enough to them. The problem is that they also often tend to have one of those rat enemies right near them. Now, the rats hold green flickies, and as you'll remember, the green flickies are the ones that can go wherever they like. So if you don't collect it immediately, it can sometimes be a real stress trying to get it back without taking a hit and then losing all the rest of them and having to collect all of them right next to a turret. If I sounded kind of rushed while saying that, just imagine playing it. Yeah, Volcano Valley 3, straightforward boss. Don't really need to talk too much about that. But yeah, this sector is scary. This stage in general.
My mic is not muted during this run, and for all intents and purposes, the fact that I am not screaming like a child in the middle of Gene Gadget 1 is pretty incredible.
Especially given you just came very close to jumping into the laser barrier. Unlike any other of the barriers in the other stages, that one actually does have a hitbox and it will hit you.
Yeah, I definitely choked down a scream for that.
So there's also two different types of floor tiles that are introduced in this stage. One of them is the electricity tiles, which are very similar to the spike tiles in Spring Stadium, with the caveat that if you have a blue shield, you're actually protected from them. Even though you'd think the blue shield would be pretty much useless. The other one is the fan tiles, which take you out of your ball state, which means that those purple enemies that are hovering over hovering over those fans, you need to make sure you get them quite high up. That's unfortunate for CoEmpathy because, yeah, she's going to have to come down here again.
Yeah, Gene Gadget 2 features what runners call the Slope of Rage, and very aptly named. It's basically a big slope that you cannot ascend, you can only descend, and if you fall down, it basically brings you back to this area that CoEmpathy is currently in right now, basically all the way back to the beginning of the stage. So you have to be really careful here.
Yeah, you have to go there at the start because there's actually a flicky there that you have to get. And so then you have to cross it 3 times without missing anything. And then also this last area is, again, there's a turret, there's an enemy you have to kill, and there are slopes. Very difficult to navigate effectively. Do you like that shot just slowly hovering through the air on Lexi's screen?
This race just really tightened up, by the way.
Absolutely, yeah.
So the Slope of Rage basically strikes. Very nice final grabs for both runners, and there is about a 5-second difference.
5 seconds in it right now.
Yeah.
You can see the difference in the times right there. That was over a minute difference.
So now Gene Gadget 3. So this this boss features a very interesting quote-unquote mechanic where if you stand at a 45-degree angle to this conveyor belt, Sonic will just kind of like slide into the side of it and won't really go anywhere. Like you can see what Amber's doing right now. And that really helps with staying up the top of the conveyor belt to be able to hit Robotnik much easier.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure why it works like that, but it's it's like it's trying to push Sonic down the ramp, but it's pushing him backwards relative to where he's standing at the same time. I don't know, it's an odd one.
Yeah, he'll sway side to side like 4 to 4.5 times. And knowing that, you can actually like figure out where he's going to be when he descends. So you can either stand on the left or right side.
Yeah. Harder once you've taken a hit though, because then the cycle is slightly out of phase. Also, yeah, everything loses a hitbox when the boss is dead. So, like, you can do things like in Volcano Valley 3, you can just stand in the lava and it just doesn't care.
So welcome to Panic Puppet 1, where all of a sudden the flickies are not held by enemies anymore. Instead, they're held in these little tubes, I guess you'd call them.
Yeah, which means they can just swarm the stage with enemies.
Yep. According to the instruction booklet, apparently Robotnik didn't have time to put the flickies in the enemies for this stage.
Gotta know the law, man.
Yep. Take that info how you will.
Yeah, those enemies are really good at sniping, by the way. The one that's CoEmpathy just ran past. So what can actually happen is you'll get to where the teleporter is, and just as you try and go through, that enemy will snipe the last flicky off the back. And if that happens, you've got to sit through the teleporter animation, go all the way back through it in the other direction, and then try and find where that flicky went. It's it's not fun if it happens. And then Panic Puppet 2 is the only pure platforming stage in the whole game. This completely abandons flickies altogether. Probably the best stage in the game for it, to be honest. It does have fair bit more difficulty to it because, again, you can just swarm the stage with enemies given they're not tied to flickies at all. Also features the one mandatory bit of isometric platforming you have to do. And CoEmpathy is coming up to it right now. So that series of jumps, when you can only move in 8 directions, is incredibly difficult.
Ooh. Yep, just a little bit off for Amber. Lexi nailing it meanwhile.
And entering Robotnik's nose.
This little bit of platforming is actually pretty dumb. It's the angles are just really weird. And...
yeah, to do it at speed is very difficult.
Yes.
Mandatory isometric platforming is the absolute worst.
AKA MIPing.
Yep.
MIP.
It is the greatest hazard in this game.
Yeah, I was going to say, Alexa, get a ring.
Yeah. So now Panic Puppet 3 has 3 stages of this boss. The first one, which you just saw CoEmpathy do, you can stand underneath Robotnik's arms and he'll basically try to pummel down on you with him, and then his arm's hitbox becomes active for you to hurt. You can do that on both sides and move on. This second phase, basically the same thing with the arms, except now a flame is chasing you. It's basically it. And you just like kind of circle around, and the hitboxes alternate every few seconds between the left and the right arm. Just got to kind of go around.
Yeah, except they don't actually alternate, which you find out in the third phase. So what you can actually do, both hitboxes actually become vulnerable at the same time, even though only one of them's flashing. So you can actually just stand under this one on the right, and you'll get all 8 hits in this phase. The reason you don't do it on the second phase is because the flame is chasing you, so it doesn't make any sense because you'll just stand there and get hit.
While I'm in phase 3 of Panic Puppet 3, I'd like to just thank the Sonic 3D Blast community. I've run this category for about 5 years on and off, and I picked it up after leaving my previous speed game back in October. And people really stepped up when I just started aggressively tweeting about the game and offering to teach people and stuff. So shout outs to Big John, who's always been running this game as well, and Argic, Zergriff, and The Only Kid, Supersonic, etc. I forgot to split. Anyways, shout outs to the community, and I really, really appreciate y'all and the international isometric family. Special shout outs to y'all for supporting Lexi and I as we do this.
Okay, so we're coming into the final fight now. I'd like to have good things to say about this fight, but I really don't. There's not a lot going on here. You just have to go through the same 5 phases of this fight twice. And it's just, you move in between these arenas and it'll just be a simple attack and then become vulnerable, and then attack and then become vulnerable. There's only 2 of the 5 phases you can actually make any faster. The first one you can force to fire the lasers a bit earlier if you stand in the right place and then you jump early. And then this third one that CoEmpathy's on now, you can actually move the, actually make sure that the hands move as close as possible to where they're going to be for their attack to start. And so you can see that the hand at the bottom here will take a lot longer than the hand at the top to move into position. And the only section here that has rings is where the first phase is. So Lexi now has to do phase 4 and 5 without taking a hit. Neither of them should present trouble, but should. Phase 5 in particular has this safe spot in this corner that you can't actually be touched in. But after the 4th volley of these balls, you have to move fairly quickly into position to get this hit because he doesn't stay vulnerable for very long. She did pull it off, so we have the safety of the rings.
Good stuff.
then-
I was a bit terrified, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was scary as hell.
For her, honestly.
See, Amber actually got hit on the same phase, but managed to grab the ring,
Yeah.
which made that seem a lot less panicky for sure.
Yeah, the rings are a bit strange here because some of them will actually hit the ground and disappear immediately.
Yeah, it seems like they just phase through the ground sometimes. It's kind of weird.
There's not really a lot to say because we've seen all of this before, so if you guys in the chat have any questions, try and answer them.
Yeah, I'd also like to shout out the isometric salt mine / family because I've been learning this game for the past few weeks or so, and it's been really nice. Everybody's been really welcoming, and just it's been a good time. So, and I'm looking forward to fully learning this game, and but yeah, it's been really nice. It's been a really pleasurable experience. So thanks to everyone involved for that. Meanwhile, time is actually coming up for CoEmpathy. The hit that she gets on this phase of the boss will be time.
Okay, so I make that 41.55.
I got 42.18.
And you're on the wrong screen. There we go.
No, there we go.
GG's.
Yeah, again, I'd like to shout out the 3D Blast community. Shout out to Planet Chaos for picking me up recently. Y'all have been wonderful, even though I currently don't stream consistently because I'm moving in like 3 weeks. And honestly, yeah, thank you so much, Lexi, or CoEmpathy, for just choosing to do this race with me. We originally were going to do a race of best ending. It was going to be me and Swezzy, who also recently learned this game from me. And he couldn't be here. So shout outs to Swezzy. Shout outs to CoEmpathy for taking this place. Appreciate it. Otherwise, without you, this race wouldn't be happening right now. But
I feel like I should point out before we go as well, that was a massive PB for Amber, by the way, like almost a minute.
yeah, that's a 51-second PB for me. I had a 43:10 going into this that I got 2 days ago. But I just want to say, if anyone ever is interested in learning the Sonic 3D Blast, either any % or best ending run, reach out to any one of us who run the game. We're all really happy to teach y'all. I have a lot of resources. We have our own channel on the Sonic Discord. Yeah, like, reach out to me or anything. Like, all of us are very, very welcoming and happy to teach people and grow this game even further. Also, shout out for being super supportive. Y'all have been absolutely wonderful. Let's definitely goal for 10K for Child's Play charity, and I guess that's gonna be it for us. Thank you, Michael and TGH, for being on commentary.